The champagne flute trembles in my fingers as I watch my parents raise their glasses toward my brother Camden across our family's mahogany dining table. The crystal catches the light from our chandelier, casting tiny rainbows across the white tablecloth that my mother, Patricia, had insisted on using for what she called Camden's special night. The Dom Perignon fizzes softly, a sound that should feel celebratory, but instead feels like static in my ears. Have you ever watched your family celebrate someone else's milestone while your own life-changing achievement sits forgotten in the corner like yesterday's newspaper? To Camden Montgomery, my father Richard announces, his voice carrying that particular tone of pride I've been chasing my entire 31 years, for making senior vice president at Whitman Financial. Your grandfather would be so proud to see a Montgomery climbing the corporate ladder with such distinction. The glasses clink together in a symphony of validation that I've never quite managed to conduct for myself. Camden grins, his navy suit impeccable as always, his success worn like a badge of honor that catches every bit of available light in the room. I take a small sip of champagne and feel the bubbles dance against my tongue, their effervescence a stark contrast to the heaviness settling in my chest. 3 weeks ago, I completed my surgical residency at Harvard Medical School and accepted a position as an orthopedic surgeon at Highland Park Presbyterian Hospital, specializing in sports medicine with a starting salary of $280,000. 3 weeks ago, I called my parents to share the news that I would finally be Dr. Sloan Montgomery, that the girl who used to practice sutures on oranges in her bedroom had achieved something most people only dream of. 3 weeks ago, my mother said, "Oh, that's nice, sweetheart," and immediately launched into a detailed discussion about Camden's upcoming promotion review. The dining room feels both familiar and foreign tonight, with its walls lined with family photos that tell a story I'm somehow absent from. There's Camden's high school graduation, Camden's college acceptance to SMU, Camden's first day at Whitman Financial. My medical school graduation photo sits on a side table, partially obscured by a plant that my mother never remembers to water. The contrast feels deliberate, though I know it's probably just another oversight in a long line of oversights that have shaped our family dynamic for as long as I can remember. "Sloan, you're being awfully quiet," Patricia observes, her manicured fingers adjusting the pearl necklace that has been her signature piece for the past 2 decades. She's wearing her blue dress, the one she reserves for special occasions, and her hair is styled in a way that suggests she visited her salon specifically for tonight's celebration. "Aren't you proud of your brother's accomplishment?" I force my lips into what I hope resembles a smile and nod, raising my glass toward Camden. "Of course. Congratulations, Cam. Senior VP at 33 is impressive." The words taste like champagne and disappointment. Sweet on the surface, but leaving a bitter aftertaste that lingers long after they're spoken. He reaches across the table to squeeze my hand, and there's genuine warmth in his touch that reminds me why I love him, despite everything. The evening continues with stories of Camden's achievements, his strategic victories at work, the clients he's secured, the deals he's closed. Richard talks about how Camden reminds him of himself at that age, how he has the Montgomery drive and determination. I listen to it all while studying the grain patterns in our dining table, memorizing the swirls and knots in the wood like a map to somewhere I'll never quite reach. When dessert arrives, a chocolate cake that Patricia had specially ordered from Camden's favorite bakery, I excuse myself to the powder room and stare at my reflection in the antique mirror. Doctor. Sloan Montgomery stares back at me, her dark hair pulled into a neat chignon, her black dress conservative and appropriate. She looks successful, accomplished, like someone who should be celebrated. But in this house, on this night, she feels invisible in a way that has nothing to do with the lighting and everything to do with a pattern that has been weaving itself through our family for longer than I care to remember. The invitation arrives on cream-colored cardstock 3 days after Camden's celebration dinner. Its elegant script announcing the Highland Park Country Club's annual Physician Recognition Gala. My name appears in bold letters under honorees. Dr. Sloan Montgomery, Outstanding Achievement in Surgical Residency. The paper feels substantial between my fingers, the kind of quality that suggests importance. And for a moment, I allow myself to imagine my parents' faces when they see my name printed alongside Dallas's most accomplished medical professionals. I photograph the invitation and text it to our family group chat with a simple message. Thought you'd like to see this. The response comes within minutes. Patricia. How wonderful. We're so proud. Richard. Congratulations, sweetheart. Camden. Way to go, sis. The words should feel warm, but they arrive with the emotional temperature of a polite handshake rather than the bear hug enthusiasm that Camden's promotion announcement had generated. I set my phone down on my kitchen counter and stare out the window of my downtown Dallas apartment, watching the evening traffic create rivers of light between the buildings. Maybe you felt this too, that moment when you realize your family's pride operates on a sliding scale you'll never quite understand. 2 weeks later, I slip into my black evening gown in my bedroom, the silk fabric cool against my skin as I adjust the neckline. The dress cost more than I typically spend on clothing, but tonight feels significant enough to warrant the investment. My reflection shows a woman who belongs at events like this, polished, professional, successful. I've practiced my acceptance speech in the mirror, rehearsed how I'll describe my research on ACL reconstruction techniques in athletes, prepared for questions about my upcoming fellowship in sports medicine. The excitement bubbles in my chest like champagne, and I find myself humming as I apply my lipstick. My phone rings as I'm fastening my diamond earrings, the ones my grandmother left me. Patricia's name appears on the screen, and I answer with genuine warmth in my voice. Hi, Mom. I'm just getting ready to leave for the gala. Are you and Dad excited? The pause stretches longer than comfortable silence should, filled with a static that feels like foreshadowing. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. We completely forgot about your event tonight. Camden surprised us with reservations at the mansion for Jessica's birthday dinner. You know how Jessica gets when plans change, and we've already ordered the wine pairing. Her voice carries that particular tone of regret that sounds practiced, as if she's apologized for similar oversights before. The diamond earring slips from my fingers and bounces against the hardwood floor with a tiny crystalline chime. I watch it roll under my dresser while my mother continues talking about Jessica's preferences for birthday celebrations, about how Camden had been planning this surprise for weeks, about how difficult it is to get reservations at the mansion on short notice. Her words wash over me like white noise while I process the fact that my parents have chosen to celebrate my sister-in-law's birthday over my professional recognition. Of course, I hear myself saying, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. Family first, I understand completely. The lie tastes metallic like I've bitten my tongue, but it's easier than explaining why this hurts in a way that feels disproportionate to the situation. I end the call and sit on the edge of my bed, still wearing one earring, staring at my reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back at me appears successful and composed, but her eyes tell a different story. They hold the accumulated weight of 1,000 small disappointments, each one insignificant on its own but devastating in their collective impact. I retrieve the fallen earring and fasten it with hands that refuse to shake, because tonight I will accept recognition from my professional community, even if my family can't find the time to witness it. Sometimes the people who matter most show up in the spaces where the people who should matter most leave empty chairs. The Highland Park Country Club's ballroom glitters with crystal chandeliers and fresh orchids, the kind of elegant atmosphere I've always imagined would feel meaningful when celebrating professional achievements. I navigate through clusters of Dallas's medical elite, my black silk gown trailing behind me as conversations about groundbreaking surgical techniques and research grants float around me like music. Dr. Rebecca Chen, my mentor from residency, approaches with 2 glasses of champagne and a smile that radiates genuine warmth. "Sloan, you look absolutely radiant," she says, pressing a glass into my hand. "Where are your parents?" "I'm dying to meet the people who raised such an exceptional surgeon." Her question lands like a small stone in still water, creating ripples of discomfort that I try to smooth with a practiced smile. I take a sip of champagne, letting the bubbles dance on my tongue while I formulate an answer that doesn't reveal the hollow space where my family's support should be. "They had a prior commitment," I reply, the words carefully neutral. "But they're so proud." The lie feels familiar now, worn smooth by repetition like a worry stone I've carried too long, doctor. Chen's expression softens with understanding, and I wonder if she can see through my composed facade to the disappointment I'm trying so hard to conceal. Around us, families cluster together, parents beaming as they photograph their accomplished children, spouses adjusting bow ties and straightening evening gowns with obvious pride. When my name is called for the Outstanding Achievement Award, I walk across the stage with my chin high and my smile genuine. The applause feels like sunlight after a long winter, warming parts of me that have been cold for longer than I care to admit. I accept the crystal trophy from Dr. Harrison Wells, the chief of surgery at Presbyterian, and deliver my prepared remarks about the future of sports medicine and my gratitude for the mentorship I've received. The audience responds with enthusiasm, and for these few minutes, I feel seen and valued in a way that fills the empty spaces my family has left behind. Later, during the dinner portion of the evening, I find myself seated next to Dr. Martinez, a seasoned orthopedic surgeon who's become something of a legend in Dallas medical circles. He tells me about his own journey through residency, about the sacrifices and small victories that accumulate into a meaningful career. "Family support makes all the difference," he says between bites of herb-crusted salmon. "My wife and kids have been my anchors through every challenge." His words are meant to be encouraging, but they land like arrows in a tender place I didn't know was still vulnerable. I excuse myself during dessert and step onto the club's terrace, where string lights create constellations above the manicured gardens. The October air carries the scent of fall roses and the distant sound of laughter from inside the ballroom. I pull out my phone and scroll through social media, a habit I've developed for filling uncomfortable silences. Camden's Instagram story shows a perfectly curated dinner at the mansion, complete with Jessica blowing out candles on what appears to be a very expensive birthday cake. My parents beam in the background, Richard's arm around Patricia's shoulders, both of them wearing the same expressions of joy they'd worn during Camden's promotion celebration. The contrast hits me like cold water. Here I am, being honored by my professional community for years of dedication and sacrifice, while my family celebrates Jessica's birthday as if it's a national holiday. I screenshot the Instagram story, though I'm not sure why, perhaps as evidence of a pattern I'm finally ready to see clearly. The image glows on my phone screen, my family, complete and happy, in a celebration that matters more to them than my professional achievements ever could. I return to the ballroom with renewed clarity about where I stand in my family's hierarchy of importance. The evening continues with congratulations from colleagues and networking conversations that feel genuinely meaningful. But something fundamental has shifted in my understanding of where I belong in the constellation of people who matter to me. Sometimes recognition from the right people can illuminate exactly how little recognition you've been receiving from the wrong ones. 3 months into my new position at Highland Park Presbyterian, I'm standing in my office reviewing patient charts when my phone buzzes with a text from Camden. Family dinner Sunday to celebrate my quarterly bonus. Mom's making her famous prime rib. 6 p.m. sharp. The message is accompanied by a champagne emoji and a photo of what appears to be a very substantial bonus check. I set my phone down and stare out my office window at the Dallas skyline, watching the afternoon sun cast long shadows between the buildings while I process this latest installment in our family's ongoing celebration of Camden's professional existence. Sunday arrives with the kind of crisp November weather that makes everything feel possible. I drive to my parents' house in Highland Park, past manicured lawns and houses that whisper old money with every architectural detail. The familiar sight of our family's 3-story stone mansion usually brings comfort, but today it feels more like approaching a performance where I've forgotten my lines. I park behind Camden's new BMW, apparently another fruit of his recent success, and notice that my parents have hung autumn wreaths on the front doors specifically for tonight's gathering. Inside, the house smells like rosemary and red wine, the kind of aromatic welcome that should feel like home, but instead feels like walking into someone else's celebration. Patricia emerges from the kitchen wearing her pearl necklace and the satisfied expression of a hostess who has planned something special. "Sloan, darling, you're just in time. We're opening that bottle of Camus your father's been saving." She kisses my cheek with the kind of maternal warmth that feels genuine but somehow doesn't quite reach the places that need it most. Dinner unfolds with familiar choreography. Richard carves the prime rib with ceremonial precision while Camden regales us with stories from his latest client acquisition, a healthcare conglomerate that netted Whitman Financial a 7-figure account. The numbers he mentions, his bonus, his new salary tier, his projected earnings for next quarter, dance through our conversation like confetti, each figure prompting appreciative murmurs from our parents. I listen while cutting my meat into precise pieces, a surgeon's habit that has followed me from the operating room to the dining room. "You know what this means," Patricia says, raising her wine glass toward Camden with the kind of maternal pride that glows like candlelight. "You're officially following in your grandfather's footsteps. He would be so proud to see you carrying on the Montgomery tradition of financial success." The toast that follows feels like watching fireworks from behind glass, beautiful, celebratory, but somehow removed from my immediate experience. After dinner, as we're clearing plates and transitioning to coffee and dessert, I find myself standing in our family's photo-lined hallway, really looking at the gallery for perhaps the first time in years. Camden's achievements march across the walls in chronological order, high school valedictorian, SMU business degree, first job at Whitman Financial, promotion celebrations, bonus announcements. My medical school graduation photo hangs between two pictures of Camden's college achievements, but it's smaller, positioned lower, and partially obscured by a decorative vase that seems to have migrated there permanently. The pattern becomes undeniable when I notice what's missing. No photos from my surgical residency, no images from the physician recognition gala, no documentation of the medical achievements that have defined my adult life. It's as if my professional existence lives in a parallel universe that rarely intersects with our family's documented history. Standing in this hallway, surrounded by evidence of our family's selective memory, I realize that recognition isn't something you can earn from people who are fundamentally looking in another direction. The evening continues with brandy and conversation about Camden's next career moves, his plans for expanding his client base, his strategies for climbing Whitman Financial's corporate ladder. I participate with appropriate enthusiasm while privately cataloging this latest chapter in our family's ongoing celebration of one child's success story. Sometimes the most important realization isn't that you're invisible. It's that you've been choosing to perform for an audience that isn't actually watching. The call comes on a Tuesday morning in February while I'm reviewing surgical schedules in my office. Dr. Wells' voice carries an excitement that immediately captures my attention. Sloan, I have news that's going to change your career trajectory. Johns Hopkins wants to offer you their fellowship position in advanced sports medicine reconstruction. It's the most prestigious program in the country, and they're specifically requesting you based on your research on innovative ACL repair techniques. The words wash over me like warm honey, sweet and golden with possibility. This is the opportunity I've dreamed of since my first year of medical school, a chance to train with the legends of sports medicine, to work with professional athletes, to contribute to research that will reshape how we approach surgical reconstruction. I accept the fellowship that afternoon and immediately call my parents to share the news. Mom, I have incredible news. Johns Hopkins offered me their elite sports medicine fellowship. It's a 2-year program that only accepts 3 surgeons nationwide each year. This is going to position me as one of the top sports medicine specialists in the country. The silence on the other end stretches long enough for me to wonder if the call has dropped. When Patricia finally responds, her voice carries the emotional temperature of someone discussing grocery lists. That's nice, sweetheart. Will you be moving to Baltimore then? That seems awfully far from family. Her response lands like ice water, shocking in its complete absence of enthusiasm. No congratulations, no recognition of the magnitude of this achievement, just immediate concern about geographical inconvenience. I sit in my office chair staring at my diploma on the wall, while my mother continues talking about how difficult it will be to visit Baltimore and whether I've considered the impact on future family gatherings. That weekend, I drive to my parents' house for what has become our monthly family dinner. The February air bites against my skin as I walk up the familiar stone pathway, but tonight, the cold feels appropriate, an external match for the chill that has settled into my chest over the past few days. Inside, the house radiates warmth and the savory aroma of Patricia's beef bourguignon. But the comfort feels performative, like a stage set designed to look like home without actually being one. Camden arrives 20 minutes after me, his entrance marked by enthusiastic greetings and immediate inquiries about his latest work projects. "How's the Henderson account progressing?" Richard asks before Camden has even removed his coat. "I saw in the journal that their stock prices have been climbing. You must be doing excellent work for them." The conversation flows naturally toward Camden's professional victories, while I observe from the periphery, cataloging this latest example of our family's automatic pilot settings. During dinner, I decide to test something. "I forgot to mention," I say casually while reaching for the salt. "Johns Hopkins called today. They want to feature my fellowship research in their quarterly medical journal. It would be the youngest surgeon they've ever highlighted." The statement hangs in the air for exactly 3 seconds before Patricia asks Camden about his weekend plans and Richard launches into a story about a client he met at the country club. My announcement dissolves into the background noise of family conversation, like sugar in hot coffee, present but invisible, sweetening nothing. After dinner, while we're settling into the living room with coffee and Patricia's famous chocolate mousse, Richard raises his cup toward Camden. "I want to make another toast," he announces with the ceremonial gravity he reserves for meaningful moments. "To my son, who just secured the Morrison Industries account. Your dedication and strategic thinking continue to make our family proud." The coffee cups clink together in familiar symphony while I sit with my hands folded in my lap, watching this latest performance of selective family pride. That night, driving home through Highland Park's tree-lined streets, I make a decision that feels both inevitable and revolutionary. I will stop waiting for my family to see me and start building a life with people who already do. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is accept that certain people will never celebrate you the way you deserve, and that their limitation doesn't define your worth. The Johns Hopkins Fellowship begins in July, and I throw myself into preparation with the focused intensity that has carried me through every major transition in my medical career. My apartment becomes a study sanctuary filled with research papers on cutting-edge surgical techniques, textbooks on advanced arthroscopy, and correspondence with my future colleagues at one of the world's most prestigious medical institutions. Each evening after surgery, I review case studies and practice presentations, feeling the familiar thrill of intellectual challenge that has always been my truest source of satisfaction. 3 weeks before my departure for Baltimore, I receive a formal invitation that makes my breath catch. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons has selected me as their youngest keynote speaker for their annual conference in Chicago. The letter, printed on heavy cardstock with embossed letterhead, explains that my research on minimally invasive ACL reconstruction has been deemed revolutionary and paradigm-shifting by their review committee. I will be presenting to over 3,000 orthopedic surgeons from around the world, sharing innovations that could change how we approach sports medicine for generations of athletes. I photograph the invitation and send it to our family group chat with a message that feels both hopeful and protective. Wanted to share this honor with you. The AAOS has never selected someone my age for keynote speaker. The presentation will be live-streamed if you're interested in watching. I press send and immediately place my phone face down on my kitchen counter, as if physical distance from the device might somehow cushion whatever response awaits. Camden replies within an hour. "That's amazing, sis. You're going to knock them dead. So proud of you." His enthusiasm feels genuine and warm, a reminder that my brother's love has never been in question, even when our parents' attention distribution suggests otherwise. Patricia's response arrives 3 hours later. "Congratulations, sweetheart. That sounds important." Richard doesn't respond at all, though I can see he's read the message. The keynote speech takes place on a Thursday morning in Chicago's Millennium Hotel, in a ballroom filled with the kind of focused medical professionals I've always felt most at home among. I deliver my presentation on revolutionary ACL reconstruction techniques to an audience that hangs on every word, asking insightful questions and approaching me afterward to discuss collaboration opportunities. The standing ovation that follows feels like the culmination of everything I've worked toward. Recognition from peers who understand the magnitude of what I've accomplished. That evening, scrolling through social media in my hotel room, I discover that Thursday was also the day Camden received another promotion at Whitman Financial. Our family group chat buzzes with congratulatory messages about his new title as Executive Vice President. Patricia has posted a series of Instagram photos from an impromptu celebration dinner at their country club, complete with champagne toasts and a cake that reads, "Congratulations, EVP Camden." The timestamp shows the celebration occurred during the exact hours I was delivering my keynote address to thousands of surgeons worldwide. The contrast crystallizes with mathematical precision. My keynote speech, a career-defining moment that represents years of research and innovation, merits a polite acknowledgement in our family chat. Camden's promotion, undoubtedly significant but the latest in a series of predictable corporate achievements, merits an immediate family celebration, complete with professional photography and social media documentation. The pattern has become so consistent it feels choreographed, as if our family operates according to an invisible script where my achievements exist in footnotes while Camden's occupy the main narrative. I close Instagram and stare out my hotel window at Chicago's glittering skyline, feeling a strange sense of liberation wash over me. For years, I've been trying to earn something that was never actually available for purchase. My family's recognition operates according to criteria I will never meet, not because I'm insufficient, but because the game itself is rigged in favor of a player who isn't me. This realization doesn't arrive with anger or resentment, but with the clear-eyed acceptance that comes when you finally understand a puzzle you've been trying to solve your entire life. Tomorrow, I return to Dallas to finish my final month at Highland Park Presbyterian before beginning my fellowship at Johns Hopkins. But tonight, I'm celebrating my keynote success with room service and the kind of quiet satisfaction that doesn't require external validation to feel complete. 2 years into my Johns Hopkins fellowship, I'm standing in Baltimore's Inner Harbor watching the sunrise paint the water in shades of gold and coral when my phone rings with news that changes everything. Dr. Angela Morrison, Chief of Sports Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco, is calling to offer me a position that sounds like something from my most ambitious dreams. "We want you to head our new Center for Athletic Performance and Recovery," she says, her voice warm with the kind of professional respect I've learned to treasure. "You'll have complete autonomy to design the program, unlimited research funding, and the opportunity to work with Olympic athletes preparing for the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. Your innovations in minimally invasive reconstruction have revolutionized how we think about athletic recovery." The position comes with a salary that startles me, $425,000 annually, plus research bonuses and speaking fees that could easily double that figure. More importantly, it represents the kind of professional recognition I've spent my entire career building toward. The chance to shape the future of sports medicine while working with the world's most elite athletes. I accept immediately, and as I hang up the phone, I realize I'm crying tears of joy while watching seagulls dance across Baltimore's harbor. That evening, I call my family to share the news. Camden answers with genuine enthusiasm, whooping with excitement when I describe the position and the research opportunities it represents. Sloan, this is incredible. You're going to be working with Olympic athletes. Mom and Dad are going to be so proud when I tell them. His words warm my heart, but I notice he assumes the responsibility of conveying my news to our parents rather than expecting them to receive it directly from me. When I speak with Patricia and Richard, their responses follow familiar patterns. Polite congratulations that feel more like social obligations than parental pride. Moving to San Francisco feels like stepping into a life I was always meant to live. My new office overlooks the Golden Gate Bridge, and my research team includes some of the most brilliant minds in sports medicine. We're developing surgical techniques that will help athletes recover faster and stronger than ever before, and my work is being featured in medical journals worldwide. The recognition from my professional community fills spaces in my life that I didn't even realize were empty, creating a sense of fulfillment that has nothing to do with family approval and everything to do with meaningful contribution to something larger than myself. 6 months into my new position, I receive an unexpected text from Patricia. Saw your interview in Sports Illustrated. We're proud of you. The magazine featured a profile of my work with Olympic hopefuls, complete with photos of me in the surgical suite and quotes about how my techniques are changing athletic recovery. It's the first time my parents have acknowledged my professional achievements without prompting, and while the recognition feels genuine, it also arrives with a bittersweet understanding of how much external validation was required to generate their attention. Camden visits me in San Francisco for a long weekend, and we spend hours walking through Golden Gate Park, talking about our respective careers and the different paths our lives have taken. You know, he says as we're watching the sunset from Crissy Field, I've always admired how you never needed anyone's permission to be excellent. You just are. His words surprise me with their insight and warmth, and I realize that my brother has been paying attention in ways that I hadn't fully appreciated. These days, when I think about recognition and family dynamics, I understand that some people will celebrate your victories and others will treat them as footnotes in someone else's story. The liberation comes not from changing their perspective, but from building a life so rich with meaningful relationships and purposeful work that their limitations become irrelevant to your happiness. What would happen if you stopped waiting for certain people to see your worth and started investing that energy in people who already celebrate exactly who you are? I've learned that the family you choose, colleagues who champion your research, friends who remember your milestones, mentors who see your potential, can provide the recognition and support that biology sometimes fails to deliver. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to stop performing for an audience that isn't actually watching, and to start living for the people who see your light without needing a spotlight to find it.